Hello and welcome back to another episode of Route to Resilience, the podcast where we talk about real life, real emotions and practical ways to build resilience and grow in a way that actually feels sustainable. I'm Anupa Devi, resilience coach, speaker and host of this podcast, and today's episode is a very honest one. Maybe life is finally starting to fall into place. Maybe your relationships are strong. Maybe you've made big decisions that feel aligned. Maybe you've created a life that looks good from the outside. But inside, the mind still finds faults. The body still reacts with anxiety. And some days it still feels hard to fully believe in your own worth. And if you've ever felt like that, you are absolutely not alone. So today I want to talk about the mind-body connection and why happiness doesn't always automatically follow success, and why sometimes the biggest work we have to do isn't external, it is internal. So I'm going to share a bit more about my own journey over the past 4 years and why this topic feels so personal to me. So, when life looks good but something still feels off. Have you ever been there? Like, comment in the section please if you have ever felt like this is you. And this is going to be something that affects 90% of the population, I would say. That is not data that I've collected, by the way. That is just my opinion. So over the past 4 years, my life has changed massively. I'm married to someone who just truly supports me and uplifts me. I now live in a beautiful apartment in a town that has been voted one of the best places to live in the UK. I've made decisions to leave behind the 9 to 5 and build a life that feels more aligned to who I really am. I've started a business that reflects my values and the way I want to help people. I could really keep going on. I've had amazing opportunities like speaking at a conference in Berlin and teaching college students. I've met incredible people who encourage me to grow and inspire me. And honestly, I am not listing off my achievements to show off or to say, oh, look at me, look how great I am. I am sharing this because on paper, there is so much that I should be celebrating. But the truth is that I don't always feel proud of myself, and really believing in my own self-worth hasn't always come naturally. It is something that I have to work on. So even when everything looks positive on the outside, the mind can still question, the body can still react with anxiety, and confidence doesn't always match the reality of what's happening in your life. And that made me ask the really important question of why does this happen? This is actually the reason why this podcast is called Route to Resilience, because resilience isn't just about being strong on the outside, it's about what you are rooted in internally. You are not going to be able to find any kind of validation that is linked to your self-worth through things that are happening or changing for you outside or externally. So many of us are still rooted in the past without even realizing it. Our thoughts are still rooted in self-doubt. Our emotions are still rooted in fear. Our reactions are still rooted in old experiences, old messages, old narratives, and old survival patterns. So on the outside, everything can look like it's finally coming together. Everything looks stable, everything looks positive, everything looks successful, but internally your mind, body and emotions are still stuck and rooted in the same patterns. And that's what often leads to self-sabotage. Not because we're weak, not because we're ungrateful, but because emotionally we're familiar with those roots, and the brain and body feel safer repeating what it already knows, even if it doesn't actually make us happy. We have a certain addiction to what is familiar to us, even if it doesn't make us happy. This is why so many people stay where they are or stay comfortable and don't move forward in their life, because it's easier to be comfortable. And I know that's going to trigger a lot of people that are listening to this podcast, but it is easier to stick to the familiar, even if it is making you unhappy. And that's where the resilience comes in. It's not about pretending everything is fine. It's about slowly changing what you're rooted in so you can grow into something new. So, why doesn't happiness automatically follow success? Let's talk about that a little bit. So, I think a lot of us grow up believing that happiness comes when life feels secure. Yeah, okay, fine. Yeah, you'll get the promotion and it will make you feel happy in that moment. You'll have the baby, you'll get married, you'll buy a new house, you'll buy a new car, and that will give you happiness in that moment. So when you achieve something, when you feel things feel finally calm in your life, when things look stable. But what I have realized is that emotional patterns don't just disappear when life improves. You can have a loving relationship, a beautiful home, meaningful work, opportunities, and still feel anxious, and still feel unhappy, and still feel like there's something missing or empty inside. And you can achieve something you've been working towards for years and still feel unsure of yourself. Now, if you're thinking that this is me, I don't want you to feel bad about yourself or feel like there's something wrong with you, because happiness isn't always controlled about what's happening today. It's often controlled by what your mind and body have learned in the past. So I've been reading this book by Dr. Joe Dispenza, which I'll probably talk about a bit more in this podcast, where I've learned a lot of what I am talking about now and through my own experiences, as I explained. But he talks about the mind and body connections. So, one of the ideas that really helped me understand this comes from the mind body connection. The body will remember emotional experiences even when the mind wants to move forward. If you've lived in stress, pressure, fear, or self doubt for years, your body will become used to those emotions and they will start to feel really normal. So even when life is looking good for you and it's starting to improve, the body can still react as something is wrong. Your heart can start racing, your stomach tightens, anxiety shows up for no reason, and your confidence will suddenly drop. And this isn't weakness, it isn't you being negative, it's your conditioning and it's the way you've been programmed. Your brain and body are trying to protect you based on what it's learnt before. Remember, the brain is there to protect you, it's there as a survival mechanism. It will perceive any threats and familiarize it with any threats that you've seen or heard or smelt or even touched before. So, this is very, very natural for the brain and body to try and protect you based on what it's learnt before. So, another huge realization for me has been how much of a life we live unconsciously. And when I talk about living unconsciously, this is almost me saying how much of our life we live asleep, basically. And I know again that this probably is going to trigger a lot of our listeners, but are you aware? Are you aware of your emotions? Are you aware of what's driving your actions? Are you even aware of why you might be feeling the way you're feeling? Or do you try and suppress, express, react? Or what's the other one? Suppress, express, react, distract, even. So think about the example of driving. You're driving somewhere and your brain doesn't even remember the journey because it's on autopilot. The same thing happens with our thoughts and our emotional reactions and our behaviors. Would you believe it? So we doubt ourselves in the same way every day. We react to the stress in the same way every day. We hold on to the same fears without questioning them. And how can you change something that you're not even aware of? So this is what I mean about being asleep. And again, like in my opinion, there is the majority of the population that is asleep and not awake and aware of their behaviors. So that's where awareness is the first step, and it becomes the most powerful tool that you can have in your tool kit. Because the moment you start noticing your patterns, you're no longer completely controlled by them. And isn't it just amazing to be able to be free of any kind of emotion that might be holding you back, or any kind of pattern that is stopping you from thriving? So why is it that many people only change after something painful happens in their life? For a lot of people, awareness only comes after something difficult. And this is when you realize that you need to make a change, or that things are not working in the way that they have done in the past. And usually this is what we might call a wake-up call. This can come in many forms. It can look like burnout, it can look like anxiety, it can look like heartbreak, feeling emotionally exhausted, or just reaching a point where you're completely fed up of feeling the same way again and again. And I know that there's going to be so many listeners that are going to resonate with this. There's something niggling at you, and you know you're not overthinking. You know that it's not that you lack direction. It's just that sometimes we don't change until we are fed up of our own patterns. It's a sign, it's a signal, it's a message to make a change, to improve your life and be the best version of yourself. And that moment is really uncomfortable, and often it can become the turning point. So if you're feeling a little bit of discomfort, I would look at this as an opportunity, not as something that is a hindrance. It's an opportunity. You've been asked to step up, and what greater gift can this be in your life? So this is the moment when you decide you want something different. I'm going to talk about the power of meditation and self-observation, because meditation and self-observation comes from within, and it's not about having a perfectly calm mind. It's not about being zen. It's more about becoming familiar with yourself and noticing your thoughts. Instead of automatically believing them, it's about noticing what your emotional triggers are, noticing how your body reacts. Have you ever asked yourself the question, how am I feeling and why am I feeling this way? Because the more aware you become, the more you understand why you feel the way you do. And once you become aware of a pattern, you are no longer controlled by it. And this is where the real change starts, because you can create a new life if you're still thinking from the same emotional state every single day. Let me just say that again, because it's so important. You can't create a new life if you're still thinking from the same emotional state every day. And this is why I absolutely love Dr. Joe Dispenza's book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. So how can you rewire your brain and rewire your roots? Real change doesn't happen overnight. It happens through consistent small daily shifts. So this is something that you need to work on every day. It is something that you need to work on every day. You need to notice your emotional triggers. You need to pause before reacting. You need to be kinder to yourself instead of criticizing yourself. That is a definite must. Please be kinder to yourself rather than criticizing yourself. You're only doing your best. And you need to be able to celebrate your small wins instead of dismissing them. And I did this for the longest time. I'd get the most amazing opportunities and I'd be like, yeah, it's great, but yeah, I'm really happy, but there is no buts. Celebrate your small wins, stop dismissing them. So resilience, it isn't built in one moment. It's not this one big swoop and whoop, there you go, you're resilient. It's about building through small repetitive changes that slowly help the body and mind to feel safe again. Because over time, those changes become new roots. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Root to Resilience. I really hope that it helped you to understand the connection between your mind and body and why you might feel the way you do, even when life's looking positive on the outside. If this episode resonates with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it today, because the more we talk about these things openly, the more we help each other to grow. And if you would like to work with me, you can connect with me on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn and find out more about my coaching, workshops, and 4 R's to Resilience program. Remember, resilience isn't about being perfect at all. It's about becoming more aware of yourself, being kinder to yourself, and taking small steps forward every day. And remember, resilience is your superpower.